Welcome to On Texas Football. It's game day. It's time for the Saturday morning conversation. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Rod Babers and CJ Vogel of On Texas Football. Guys, Longhorns hosting UTSA this evening, late afternoon, early evening, 6 o'clock kick on ESPN. Hope you don't have direct TV if you're watching from home. That's a bad mix for the Longhorns there. But Longhorns enter this game, guys, 35.5-point favorites. I'm going to start on the offensive side as we break down this game. Rod, I'm going to ask you, what do you think of this Texas offense against the UTSA defense?
I think after watching that Texas State game versus UTSA, the pass defense for UTSA is going to have a long Herculean task ahead of them to stop all the weapons that Texas will present to them. Their pass efficiency defense ranked around 111th in the country. They've given up a lot of explosive plays via the passing game, and I think Texas will potentially I think they'll spread the rock around to a lot of weapons. I think Sark is going to scheme open and feature some players in the passing game that we have not necessarily seen. Guys like DeAndre Moore, guys like Jonte Cook. Ryan Wingo is probably going to have a big game. He's only got 5 touches. Feels like he's got more just because they're always big plays. But I think you're going to see him explore the depth of that wide receiving core, much to the misfortune of UTSA.
CJ, what do you think about the UTSA defense or offense versus the Texas defense? Texas defense has been better than expected out of the gate so far this year.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And, I think the goal for this Texas defense coming out of this game should be to have just one total touchdown allowed through the first 3 games. That should be the goal, and I think it's pretty attainable. What is also the goal is to get to the quarterback. And I know that's been a topic of conversation over the last 2 weeks. We've talked about it all offseason. This pass rush, this pass rush, this pass rush. Well, where are the sacks, right? You only have one. It came from Colin Simmons a week ago against Michigan. This is going to be the week that you start to see those sack numbers start to increase tremendously in my eyes. I put it on the board on ontexasfootball.com, Bobby, earlier this week. I said 5 sacks is attainable. I think Texas goes out and gets 5. Texas State had 24 pressures on this offensive line for UTSA a week ago, and that doesn't include a Colin Simmons, a Trey Moore, and Ethan Burke, a Baron Sorrell. A little bit more of a talent jump from Texas State to Texas here. Those boys get after the quarterback, and I just don't know where they go to get consistent offense. We saw 2 quarterbacks a week ago. It'll be Owen McCown set a trailer on Monday. Look for Willie McCoy and Devin McEwen to be their 2 go-to wide receivers. They don't have the explosivity as even a Michigan did. So Texas rolls big. I don't think they allow many points. And again, 1 touchdown through 3 games should be the goal coming out of this.
Let me ask you guys this. This is kind of our pregame here, given it's Saturday morning. We're trying to get people ready for the day. Who do you think? What do you have as a final pick of a score? And then tell me 1 or 2 guys you think that might, like Rod was mentioning, maybe Wingo. Give me 1 or 2 guys you think might step up in this game a little more than usual. So I'm going to start, and I'll give you all my prediction. I'm going to go 52-10. I'm going to go Texas beats the over, beats the spread, all that other stuff. Too many weapons. I don't see them scoring less, for example, than they did against Colorado State, because Colorado State's better than UTSA this year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, I do think that Texas got they had a couple of interceptions that thwarted a late drive. They probably are going to score somewhere in there. So I went 52-10, and my guy is Silas Bolden. I think Sark's got to get him involved and get him ready a little bit more for SEC play. I know Ryan Wingo and Jonte Cook and DeAndre Moore also are going to get touches, et but I look for Silas Bolden. What about you guys? Who wants to go first? Rod, CJ?
I'll take it. I like 55-6. I think that's a fair score. I think Texas goes out and just puts the whooping on them, right? That's the expectation. That was the expectation going into Michigan against a completely transformed team, and they did it, right? What's the change this week? I would say not a whole lot. What could change this score is the game plan UTSA comes out in. If they try to hog the possession, if they try to slow down the clock, limit possessions, whatever it might be. Still, I think there's too much firepower on both sides of the ball. Texas gets up. They get up big. You see Arch early. You see Trey Owens against UTSA later on. My player of the day, Bobby, sticking on the offensive side of the ball. I think this is going to be a big day for Jonte Cook, and it should be. He's had some opportunities. Unfortunately, penalties called back a big play against Michigan. He'll be a guy that we look at outforcing and, or I guess, igniting the fight song at some point on Saturday evening as well.
All right. Hey, I got to say this, Rod, before I go to you. Jeff Traylor is laying the rat poison pretty thick right now, guys.
Yeah, he is.
I don't know if y'all seen some of the comments this week, but, this is the most impressive team we've seen in 5 years. It's the biggest talent disparity we've ever faced.
Yeah.
He is so hoping Texas reads or watches his Twitter account. He can't see straight because I think CJ's right. I think he's going to sit on the ball and try to make this thing 36-10. That's what I think if Traylor's going to try to do. What do you think, Rod, here?
It's going to be hard for them to sit on the ball because their running game is so bad. Their running game is bad. I mean, they have one of the kind of bottom 15 worst running games right now in college football. That's why it's going to be hard for them to sit on the ball. Now, they want to throw the ball, and they throw the ball a lot. I don't know if it's because they've been playing catch-up mostly in that Texas State game, but they only average around 6.7 yards per attempt. So they don't throw the football downfield. And if you go look at completion percentage, they're actually among the top 35 best passing offenses, which they are in. They have the lowest completion percentage among that group as well. So I don't know how they're going to hold the football, actually. I think that's going to be tough for them, too. So I'm kind of close to CJ. I'm going 56-6. I don't think they score a touchdown.
Oh, you're a point off, Rod.
You guys were 1 point apart.
Yeah. I think CJ is pretty close. I mean, I got him getting – because I'm with you. I think Colorado State was a better team.
I think it's interesting. You and CJ – with those 55-6 and 56-6 predictions, kind of living on the edge with CJ right there, wanting Texas to only give up one touchdown in the first 3 games of the year. I hear you guys. I went 52-10. I guess I'm the pessimist with a 42-point win.
Exactly.
Give me a break, guys. Who did you think, though, Rod, maybe that might have a good game that people aren't thinking of?
You know what? I'll just go with DeAndre Moore since you guys went with the other receivers who haven't yet been featured. I'll go with DeAndre Moore. 0 targets, a starter with 0 targets in the first 2 games. I'm going to say that Sark gives him some featured plays early on.
Hey, I actually say it didn't count as a target officially, but that one of the third down plays was actually to DeAndre Moore where the defensive end tipped it and blocked it.
Oh, really?
He was running a little quick screen to DeAndre Moore. He can't even get a screen right now.
What is going on? He's got to think he's cursed at this point. He's like, what is happening? Why can't I get it?
Yeah, because he catches a touchdown. And we think maybe a little bit of a phantom hold on that, So
he's throwing all those pennies in the wishing well, Bobby, just for one catch.
Yeah. All right. We think Texas rolls today. I think that's great and everything. Of course, we want to go see Texas do it. That's always the key category there for all of us. All right, let's step in. There's not a lot of great games. We always on Saturday Conversation, we always take a look at some other games across the country. There's just not a lot of great games outside of the SEC. Like I'm looking down. Today is Pacific Northwest Day, by the way. Washington hosts Washington State at 2:30. Oregon State hosts Oregon at 2:30. Wow. I mean, those games used to be at the very end of it was the Civil War, was the Oregon State. The Apple Cup was Washington. Those used to be the last games of the year. They've moved up now to the 3rd game of the year for both of those guys. Oregon favored by 16.5. Washington favored by 4.5. Washington State, by the way, decisively beat Texas Tech last week. Not surprising after Texas Tech went to that overtime to beat ACU.
I'll say this. They got a running back there at Washington State who's pretty damn good. Wayshawn Parker. Just throwing it out there. Through 2 weeks, he's you look at him and through 2 weeks, his ranks within the Power 4 for a freshman. First in yards per carry, first in yards after contact. He's averaging over 8 yards per carry, 5 yards after contact per rush. I mean, he is a freak right now. That dude's watch him. He's the reason they whipped up on Tech like that.
Yeah.
Washington, a shell of what they were a year ago, only favored by 4.5, as I mentioned. The other 2 games, I mean, Notre Dame, Purdue. I mean, after Notre Dame laid laid an egg against Northern Illinois. Hudson Card leads Purdue. It's at Purdue. Notre Dame still favored by 10, by the way, even though they couldn't they barely put 10 points up on Northern Illinois. The other game, just the Bayou Bucket, Rod, Rice and Houston. This is crazy because remember, Houston barely lost to OU last week. They're only favored by 5 over a Rice team that is just decimated right now. So those are some out-of-conference games that we look at. Again, not a marquee slate by any stretch. We talked about that before we in pre-production here. This isn't a great out-of-conference week. In conference in the SEC, there's some pretty good ones. Not only matchups of two SEC foes, but also some intersectional ones. Bama goes to Wisconsin. Right now, Bama favored by 16. Wisconsin under Luke Fickell trying to get his second year on going up right now. And then also Boston College goes to Missouri. Boston College right now, after their win over Florida State, up to number 24 in the ranks. Mizzou number 6. Mizzou, like Bama, favored by 16, though, in these intersectional matchups. What do y'all think about those two games? Bama, guys, I got to say this. I'm not sure Jalen Milroe fits Kalen DeBoer.
No.
But I think Kalen DeBoer is pretty good with whoever his quarterback because he's just a good coach. I'm not sure there are a better pair of running backs in the country other than Ohio State than the guys they have at Bama. Jamarian Miller and Justice Haynes, those two guys can go. And I think he's going to end up leaning more and more on that plus Jalen Miller in the run game. What do y'all think about Bama, Wisconsin, BC, Missouri?
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. How does Bama come back? Yeah, I mean, that scoreboard a week ago looked pretty nice from the outside. But if you watch that game, it was a 3-point game going into the fourth quarter. I believe it was only about an 11 or 12-point game with 2.5 minutes left before 2 late touchdowns from Alabama put that out of reach. It was a pretty ugly game. I don't know what it is about USF that does that to Alabama, but 2 straight years in which it's been pretty ugly for the first 3 quarters or so. So Wisconsin on the road will be a loud environment. I don't know if Wisconsin has the horses in the trenches to play with in Alabama. I don't know if they have the speed to keep up with an Alabama. And that to me is kind of where we saw that disconnect a week ago with Texas and Michigan. Right now, I like Alabama big in that game. I don't like Tyler Van Dyke. I don't like the way that he's fit in with that Wisconsin system so far. It was pretty ugly week 1. And then Missouri is being tested for the first time. Is Bill O'Brien, is he the guy that we're supposed to lean on right now and believe that Boston College is headed to the top? I don't know. But, hey, to be ranked 2 weeks into the year, it's impressive nonetheless. First test for Missouri, I still like them. I think they have too much talent elsewhere. It'll be a big bounce-back week for the SEC with Mizzou, Bama winning the 2 marquee games, quote-unquote, out of conference.
You see this? Y'all see this number I'm holding up right here?
0.
You know what that means? That's how much confidence I have in Bill O'Brien to do anything. All right, guys. I have no confidence in Bill O'Brien.
Can I just say this? That also stands for the amount of points that Missouri's giving up. I don't think they've allowed any points yet, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's impressive. We've talked about that at Texas, a goose egg. So that's what I want to watch from Missouri is to see if that defense may be legit. We know the offense is legit. And yeah, man, I'm with you on Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Milroe. I don't think he's compatible except his deep ball with the Kalen DeBoer offense because he has a really nice deep ball and Kalen DeBoer wants to throw the football downfield. But Kalen DeBoer is a hell of a coach, man. He still is pretty much underrated, even though people now respect him. 106-12 as a head coach. Is an unbelievable record. Like, that's freaky, guys.
Folks don't do that in the online dynasties for the video game. I mean, that's a ridiculous record nonetheless. It will be interesting to see what kind of game Wisconsin comes out with, right? We talk about that Big Ten, own the possession. Don't allow Jalen Milroe to get opportunities to throw the ball downfield. That's the one way to keep that game close there. Of course, getting your fan base behind you as well. I just don't see it. I don't see it at all.
I would add this. The one thing that Luke Fickell probably can do is stop the run. And I think that's what Alabama can lean on at times. So that's the interesting matchup. Again, Bama favored by 16, Missouri favored by 16 in those two intersectional matchups. Let's go next to two interconference games. A&M at Florida, 2:30 on ABC. A&M currently favored by 3 this morning, 47.5 over under. Then also, I want to mention this one. LSU goes to South Carolina. LSU won on 1-1, didn't look good against USC, didn't look particularly good last week against Nicholls State either. LSU only favored by 7 over South Carolina. South Carolina team that beat the Tar out of Kentucky last weekend. So those two interconference games or in conference games. Let's start with the Aggies in Florida, because I know obviously a lot of Texas fans will be interested to see what happens to A&M and Mike Elko. Again, favored by 3. Graham Mertz, the quarterback for Florida, will be the starter. It was thought that maybe Derek Lagway, the freshman out of Willis, Texas, top 5-star quarterback that decided on Florida over A&M late in the process last year, might get his second start. But Mertz is now going back in as the starter for Florida. Last time he was the starter, I think the Gators scored, 10 or 13 points? They're going to have to score more than that to beat the Aggies. What y'all's take on this game? Rod, I'll let you go first. Aggies versus Gators.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Aggies defense in this one. I'm still not sure about that Aggie offense, man. That was a dreadful performance to start the Colin Klein era for the offensive side of the ball. But I do like the Aggies defense. I will say there will be a package for DJ Lagway. I guarantee you that. He's just too explosive. His arm strength is freaky, man. So I think there'll be a package for him, and I wouldn't doubt if, they up the usage of that package if they don't get enough productivity from Graham Mertz and he's unable to move the football against that A&M defense, because they need kind of a force multiplier. DJ Lagway can be that. That's not really Graham Mertz's game. He's a game manager. He needs others around him playing well. DJ Lagway can be a catalyst on his own, potentially.
I agree with you 100%. CJ, what about you?
Yeah, it's going to be a big test for this game will tell you if the A&M defense is legit, right? If you play Graham Mertz, you're expected to dominate that game. Mertz doesn't do a whole lot vertically down the field. You keep everything in front of you. That offensive line for Florida proven already to have some holes in it. However, if it's DJ Lagway, and we saw 487 yards of passing on 21 completions, do the math right there. That's pretty darn good. There's more of a verticality and explosivity to that offense. That's where I think A&M could be tested or even exploited, is if they see that vertical passing attack from Lagway. I'm with you, Rod. There's no way that this game is 60 minutes of Graham Mertz. I just don't think that's – I mean, if you want to keep your job, you have to switch up something if you're Billy Napier. And if you have a 5-star coming off of a game in which he was just a couple feet shy of 500 passing yards,
come on,
that to me feels like someone that needs to be on the field, especially after seeing 5 years of what Graham Mertz can do. And it wasn't bad a year ago, but it wasn't game changing. And that's what you need right now for a guy coaching for his job, is a game changer on the field. That's DJ Lagway in my eyes. And all in all, A&M defense, it'll be a test to see if they're legit or not. Coming out of that Notre Dame game, McNeese, and now Florida, it'll be a big tell for them.
I love the word Rod used, catalyst, for DJ Lagway. That is absolutely true. When your offense is moribund, I mean, literally just dead DOA, you need a catalyst.
Yeah.
And frankly, Florida's offense has been DOA for 4 years. And so I kind of agree that sometimes you need that seminal player to move your team forward. Look, I didn't even ask y'all about BC and Missouri and Alabama, Wisconsin, who you thought would win, because I think that one. But this is a close game. This is a 3-point favorite. Who do you guys have, A&M or Florida, in this contest?
Ooh,
the swamp should help. I don't know if the swamp will help, and it didn't help earlier this year, right? I like A&M. I think that defense travels.
What do you think in this game, A&M, Florida, Rod?
I share you guys' concerns about the Aggie offense, and every time I pick the Aggies and they lose, I say to myself, "See, that's what I get for picking the Aggies." And
do it some more, Rod. No, everybody wants you to do it every time. Then
I know, I shouldn't be picking the Aggies. That's my problem. But in this game, I'm picking the Aggies. But I feel like they're going to make me regret it. I don't know. I'm going with the Aggies this time.
One other feature of this game that we didn't even talk about, guys, is Connor Wegman. He is questionable for this game. Also, Tyreek Chappell, the corner, 3-year starting corner for A&M, questionable. But all in all, the biggest thing that you have to look at this injury list between the two teams. A&M has 5 guys listed on their injury list. Florida has 16. The Gators are really beaten up. Marcel Red will get the snaps for A&M at the quarterback position. We'll see how that goes. He had a pretty good bowl game for the Aggies. I tell you what, tough stuff right now for both teams that I think are really just struggling to find an identity more than anything. For the record, I'm going with Florida. I think Florida's just going to. Billy Napier's coaching for his job. Mike Elko's just getting situated in his seat right now.
He didn't coach for his job week 1 against Miami.
Yeah. All right. South Carolina, LSU. Brian Kelly in an interesting situation right now, guys. Do they love him or hate him on the Bayou? I think this is a love or hate year for him. He's in his 2nd year. Last year, he gets a pass because he had a Heisman winner, but the team didn't necessarily play well. The defense looked pathetic. This year, he goes to South Carolina, and it's an early season test. They're favored by 7 over South Carolina, a team that beat Kentucky pretty convincingly last week. Y'all have any thoughts on this game or thoughts in general about the LSU program going to South Carolina?
Again, a big test for the defense. Are they legit? Have they made the steps? I don't think so. You just allowed 21 points to McNeese State, in which you were a 45-point favorite coming into that game. It was the big issue a year ago in which you had the Heisman and 2 first-round wide receivers, and you still went 9-3. Why? Your defense was bad. You add a defensive coordinator. You switch up some things. Defense still bad. You just don't have talented defensive players right now. And at LSU, that shouldn't be the case. South Carolina coming off of what maybe you call that a big win against Kentucky. They were considerable underdogs at the time, and they blew the brakes off of Kentucky. I think they got some momentum. They're playing at home. Lenore Sellers, legit quarterback. I don't want to say LSU is going to lose this game, but that defense doesn't give me any confidence to believe that they're going to win and win handedly. That's for sure. That's
the 11 o'clock a.m. ABC game, Rod. You have most people will be watching Bama, Wisconsin on Fox. Yeah. By the way, Fox twice in a row using an SEC team to boost its ratings. Texas last week against Michigan. This week, Bama versus Wisconsin. What do you think in LSU, South Carolina, Rod? Anything in particular?
Well, yeah, I have no confidence in LSU. That's strange. I think Brian Kelly's a hell of a coach, but strange times when LSU can't play defense. I just feel like we're in a bizarro world where LSU can't play defense. I'm like, I'm not used to that at all. But I think they're on upset alert. There's no question about it, man. They're not a stable enough right now roster to go into a place like South Carolina and not be on upset alert.
Yeah, right. LSU losing its star nose tackle for the season, week 2. Big loss there for them as well. Look for Rocket Sanders to have a big game running the football for South Carolina.
Nice.
Hey, by the way, it was Nicholls State, not McNeese. McNeese played CJ, you said McNeese. I think you just meant Nicholls State when they were playing. I want to add this before we go to the last game we're going to talk about, Tulane versus OU. We'll see exactly what happens there. The other games involving SEC teams, Ole Miss plays Wake Forest. And if you're the home team in the ACC, one of your games each week is on the CW network.
Wow.
So Ole Miss will be playing on the CW. Vandy goes to Georgia State. Vandy favored by 10.5. Ole Miss favored by 22.5 over Wake. Georgia, this is another in-conference game, goes to Kentucky. That one's at the 6:30 game on ABC. Georgia favored by 24. Kentucky and Tennessee. Listen to not Kentucky, excuse me. Kent State goes to Tennessee. Listen to this line, guys. 49 points. 49 points for Tennessee's favored in that one. Let's go back to Tulane OU. That's the 2:30 kick on ESPN. Immediately precedes the Texas game on ESPN later today. CJ and Rod, I'm not sure what to say. I watched Brent Venables' press conference earlier this week, and he got discombobulated in the first 2 minutes and defensive. And when coaches get defensive that early in a press conference, hey, something ain't right in Kansas. There may be a tornado coming or something. And that's what that felt like to me, even though his defense is actually playing pretty darn well right now. What are your thoughts, CJ? I'll start with you.
I mean, it was pretty ugly against Houston, right? You were 29-point favorites, and you needed a late safety by your defense to, I don't want to say put that game out of reach, but it moved it from a 2 to a 4-point game, and you had to force Houston go down the field. OU's dealing with a lot of injuries to its playmakers, which was expected to be the strength of its offense this year, right? Those were supposed to be the guys that uplifted Jackson Arnold in his first year as a starting quarterback. That offensive line was already going to be kind of a ragtag bunch of plugging and playing guys at different positions. Now you've seen injuries hit to the offensive line already. They couldn't move the ball for really anything against Houston, a team that got ran all over by UNLV the week before. I believe they had 12 possessions. Only one of them expanded beyond, 60 yards or something like that against Houston a week ago. It wasn't pretty. They didn't have a lot of continuity. It's a big prove-it game for that offense, and especially Seth Luttrell, who you're starting to hear some of that I miss Lincoln Riley talk out of Norman, Oklahoma, Bobby, and that's something I didn't think would pop up anytime in 3 years at least. Or
you're missing Jeff Levy, too, who went to Mississippi State as head coach.
Yes.
Tulane did lose early in the season to Kansas State, but they put up some points on Kansas State.
Should have won that game.
Yeah, so interesting. What do you think of the favorite? By the way, OU favored by 13 in this game. Rod, you have any takes on it?
Tulane's got some skill talent. It's a freshman quarterback, but he's a good player. I think his name is Darian Mensah or something like that is his name. He's a good player. Their two leading wide receivers are averaging like over 23 yards per reception. So they got a deep, vertical passing game, and they'll take some shots. And they got a running back who's a pretty good player too. I mean, their skill positions impressed me when I watched Tulane. So I wouldn't be shocked if they went there and gave Oklahoma everything they could handle. I'll pick Oklahoma, but I wouldn't doubt if it's a slobber knocker of a game.
If that score's the exact same as the Houston game, Bobby, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Like a 14-10 game, that feels right.
Interesting. I think OU's going to put some points up on Tulane and try to keep away a little bit in this one. I will add this. I mean, OU, I think, leads the nation right now. Its defense does in takeaways. So they are leaning on that defense quite a bit right now. We'll see what that means. All right, that's going to do it for the Saturday morning conversation. A lot of football ahead of us later today. Texas, of course, gets kicked off at 6 o'clock on ESPN. Again, Longhorns, 35.5-point favorites. Those score, CJ, I'm going to give you a little tip of the cap, by the way. Your score prediction last week, 31-13 in favor of the Longhorns. What was the final score? 31-12. You wish they would have kicked an extra point. You would have never – you could have never lived that down. Rod B and I would still be hating on you right now.
I was pulling for the kicker to trot out there, and I see why Rod went 1 point below me or above me this week on the score prediction too, huh?
There is some likelihood of that. I'll be honest. We want some of that magic to rub off on us. All right, guys, thank you also to our sponsor, the Saturday Conversation brought to you by our friends over at Duck Camp. Gear is made for the people that live for the moments out there, where there are fish to catch, birds to hunt, time to kill, football to watch. They like doing all that stuff, so they built a company centered on it, based in Austin, and dedicated to giving people best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel. At Duck Camp, they even have this heather clay-colored hats and clothing that really matches burnt orange. It's good stuff. Make sure you check them out over at duckcamp.com. At Duck Camp, they believe you can't just sit around and wait for adventure to come to you. You have to get out there, stay out there, and make the most of every second. That's duckcamp.com. Guys, y'all make the most out of your Saturday as well today, whether you're going to the game or watching with us on the Watch With Us or the pregame show, tailgate show, whatever you may do. Enjoy today with your family. Watch a little football and have fun. For Rod Babers, CJ Vogel, and our producer behind the scenes, Matt Hutchinson, I'm Bobby Burton. Hook 'em.